All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to resume our meeting. Sorry for that interruption due to a technical mishap. So we are ready again. Where were we? Commissioner Leerdam, I think, was busy. Commissioner Leerdam.
Thank you, Councilman. Yeah, so we're talking about the tourism tax. So when the master plan is finalized, they will also give their take on it. And then we will then have to make provisions for the implementation. We thought the phase 2 of the study would have been implementation in terms of infrastructure, software of the study. But they, like I said, they want to revisit the first part. So the master plan personnel who's working on it said that that's also what they did as well for Bonaire when they wrote their master plan. So that will be part of ours, and they will evaluate the first phase, and we move from there. But based on the projection from the first study, the revenues, of course, was not that significant because of the data that they had on file and the amount of tourists that would come to the island they had. So hopefully we get something more substantial. When it comes to the court cases, thankfully we're now down to one, and that is the Stuco court case, along with OLE for the investment made during the COVID era. Yeah, COVID era time.
Point of clarification, Council Lady Spanner.
I just wanted to know if this case can now be publicly discussed.
I'm going to go too much in depth. I'm just going to state that it was called December the 5th. So we will hear on the ruling soon. So that is the only risk that we have. I would like to say that we have moved forward with the finalization of the cliff stabilization that started in 2019, I think, and then the monies was on hold because of the roaming animals. But because we make enough strides and movements within the program, the ministry said we did enough progress to have the rest of the money released. So we were able to finalize the contract that was signed with the contractor at that time. But that was also a pending court case, and that is no longer an issue. It's now resolved. So we're going to finalize that project. It should be mobilizing already. So you should see acrobatics back on the island and back around the area to finalize the cliff stabilization based on what was contracted 2019, the first phase, and now the second phase. Francisca, director, already explained about the wegreizing and the plans. I just want to touch a bit more on the lag, because I think you talk about the projects. Not only are we a bit, like you said, technically short-staffed, but we also had technical short-staffing in the Department of A&I when it comes to the drawing. So we're hoping that right now for Q1, the redrawings of the Airport Boulevard Phase 2 has been finalized, and we acquired some additional help so we can speed up that process, because 2026 is going to be a very active year with government projects in and out. So we have the non-region deals that also have a lot of construction is going on. So we have to make a calendar year overview so we can prioritize and see how we're going to be able to manage all these projects for 2026 within the year of 2026. So that's what we're working on from the Department of PPMO/ENI.
Council Lady Spanner.
Commissioner Leerdam, thanks for bringing this up, because I missed a question regarding your projects. So I would like to ask it now so that maybe you can continue in what you're saying. In the special allowance projects list on page 60, I noted there are a lot that are the decree expiration date has long since passed. So I was wondering what is the state of these projects, and as usual, why are they still being listed? I can mention some. The first one on it is the 1st of June 2023. We have some that go back to even 2019. So did we get an extension? Are they, because if they're way past and we can't do anything with them, they should not still be listed. They are no longer relevant or possible.
Thank you.
No, for the road projects? For the road project, infrastructure projects? The reporting. The reporting on, I know there was a lot of reporting that were lag backed, and we were able to clear up a few projects for the reporting, especially for the infrastructural projects. So I think they should be coming off of this list because now they're finally rounded off in terms of reporting and finalized. Most of the special allowances that you have seen, I think we have to do some more further cleanup on that. We have requested extension. So any allowance that has come to a deadline, we have requested extension. So we have to clean up those that have the new extension dates, and then we have to remove those now that are finalized by reporting so they can actually come off of the project list. Or we split it up and say finalized, but reporting needs to be finalized. Maybe that's what we should do. Maybe that should be a way to... Yeah? Instead of having the whole list there. We'll do some more work on that list. Yeah? Go ahead. Okay, go ahead. No, I heard you saying something, so I was wondering.
Talking here.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry about that.
No problem, yeah. When it comes to the harbor, when you mention of tourism development, based on what it is meant in the document, they had a lot of harbor activities when it comes to like yachts and boats, and we have seen a decline in that as well. So that's why it is mentioned not only the GTA activity, but also that activity we see where we have less boats or yachts. I don't know what if the level of yachts we have. I guess a way smaller, not multi-million-dollar yachts, but we used to see a few more in our harbor, and that activity has also declined. We're now in the process of working on the harbor development. As Councilman Chairman said, the agreement was signed for phase 0, which is the Harding, which was discussed a few times in the council, and the presentation was given. I can answer the question one time. No, the container for the cargo is not part of that project. This money was in the budget, which is now moved to 2026, so we can work towards buying a new container from our own budget. Yes, the storage container.
Warehouse.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yes, the warehouse, that's the right word for the cargo. Correct, thank you. So in the OLA budget, we have budgeted that. We had to move it to 2026. And the notice that was out about the fees for storage is implemented, is now being carried out. We're looking at 2026 that we are able to be more digital in the process and collect our own departure taxes from both air and sea. So that's something that we're working on to try to bring in our revenues. When it comes to the activities within the harbor, you ask how much percentage. They're working out to calculate the percentage in terms of how much is you would say GTI movement, which is majority of the monies normally you would get that we were expecting. I would then like to send the Island Council a request, because we know that when a couple of years ago when we thought, we had a whole scare, there was a study done about an impact study, and I think we need to ask them, and I've asked a few times, and if not, they're not forthcoming with the study to the Executive Council. So I would like to send a request to the Island Council to see if they can lobby on their behalf that we can get that impact study. What we're doing right now is diversifying the economy. So that's why the Master Tourism Plan is very essential, that we get it in place so we can try to execute it. Indeed, the way the world is going with more renewable energy and the movement start to get less and less, we are already moving into a different form of revenue for the island and not relying 100% like we did in the past, or quite a large percentage on the movements of GTI, of oil. So, but that impact study is very important that you can have it. I think a lot of work went into that from both the side of OLA, and I think they had a group on the side of the ministry, so we can get that study and see what information is there that we don't have to reinvent the wheel, that we can also maybe execute certain things out of that study.
Next question. You mentioned the issue with the fees, meaning collecting fees for storage. So how many days of free storage do clients have when goods come in?
I have to go check. I can't remember out of my head 100%. I think I think it's in the notice as well. How much days you have free, and after how much days they're going to collect.
Okay, can you send a notice to us? Copy of the notice.
Okay, I will ask them to send a copy of a notice to the council. When it comes to the Kotsgebouw, yes, it's a bittersweet moment. I was on the other side when we did, and the Island Council said that we don't want to have that because of the ambiguities of the contract, which I understood as well. Bonnier did also, I did not know that because at the time, but Bonnier also declined a similar offer because they said the same exact thing. A lot of things wasn't clear, and what was, I guess, most unsettling is that after all the years you pay, you still don't own the building, and that was the most unsettling part of it. So they also did decline the offer to get a new Kotsgebouw. Well, based on yesterday's news about the expansion, but we did have discussions with the Ministry of Basic Care because in preparation with the expansion, that we need to get new seating infrastructure, especially if you're going to expand. Right now, as a commissioner, I don't have my own office. I share my office with my executive assistant, and sometimes when she's on calls, I have to leave, or when I'm on call, I leave. So I normally sit in the conference room, and I do my work from there. So housing is very important. We were able to obtain the land of GTI, which the Island Council has put aside the money for in the first budget amendment, so we can get the entire purchase. I would like to congratulate Commissioner Merkman on that. Yes, 2 days ago he were able to sign the purchase agreement, and we're waiting for GTA to sign on their part, which should be soon, and then we can finalize that payment. So you would see a significant drop in the budget because now monies will be going to make that payment for the purchase of the lands, the lots. The idea was to then move at least the commissioners into that building and some other departments that is needed. But seeing the need for housing, we will not be moving. We'll just move the department that needs to be moved to that building because that is more of a higher priority for us at this moment. So we'll stay at the building that we're in. So we have been in discussion. I think I informed the council that we have an investor who's willing to work with us. That was a Kotsgebouw. We have brought in the Ministry of Basic Care because we're having a little blockage with CFT because their point of view and our point of view is different. So CFT, Basic Care has promised, and I got from the unit manager that they are, and the director that they are working together with us and checking with their lawyers to see if the direction we want to go, how feasible it would be, and once it is, we can go back and then we have the strength from Basic Care and we can continue the discussion with the investor. So I will leave that there, not go more in depth, but I think the council know that direction we want to go already when it comes to this. So we're hoping for a positive response by the end of the month or hopefully early January, where we can go what the possibility would be when it comes to getting a Kotsgebouw, which will also alleviate the burden of the ministry. If we have a Kotsgebouw, then I guess that part they won't have to do with the expansion. So it's in their benefit if they work with us to, get this a reality. So we tell them all the time, we come to you, we don't want to beg, as they say. We come with solutions as well. And this is a solution that we can find within ourselves that it will not cost us a next loan, but we just need to work along to make it a reality because this is rent we already paying. And then afterwards, the billing would be ours and there's no additional payment after that. So it seemed like a win-win for everybody, so let's work along together. So they have given us the support. When it comes to, if I can elucidate a bit on the building, while the air quality is being dealt with now, as the commissioner said, the mold is all over. And when we speak to the ministry in a 6 weeks meeting, they were like, yeah, we don't have any budget. Our budget is up. We don't have the money. And it's always a no, no, no. And basically we said, the building came during the intervention, and this is your building. And now you have this mold all through the building, and now you don't want to pay to correct it. We don't have the finances as OLA, because otherwise we got to put aside other investments. So we cannot take on that burden to even fix or clean the mold in the building, because that was a discussion too, and they don't want to take on the responsibility to even clean the mold in the building. And then when Commissioner asks, what about if it doesn't work? And they're like, well, we're going to cross that bridge. And like, we should not cross that. We should have a plan B already. So that's to show you how reluctant they are. We have brought this up to BZK as well, and basically provide the information to them and let them know what is taking place with this ministry, because it cannot work that way. You cannot create a building. It have issues that was created because of the way it was built during your time. And you don't want to now deal with the mold, and government got to find a way to clean up the mold and pay for those things. And those things is not right. So even they talk about the space and everything, a lot of those things, they're like, yeah, we don't have the money for that. There was also, when the lights were damaged on the airport field, we had to find monies within our budget. We also requested that. They say they don't have the monies for that, so we have to figure it out for ourselves. But we had some backup, and we got some flown in. But basically, they're saying that they cannot recompensate us for that either. So everything they're stating, go to your own budget, and you got to figure it out yourself. So that's what we're trying to make $1 out of 50 cents in the different areas.
I have a question on that, if I may. I asked already about documenting issues in a report, but in the area of health, it's a health hazard for the workers there. As the public health department did an inspection, a medical report that can go to the ministries. I mean, they're just saying we don't have money, we don't have this. Yeah, but it's a health issue.
Yeah, and that's what we told them last, and we don't want, well, it's on the Florida Council now, but yeah, we're just trying not to amplify it and find a solution, that we can come with solutions, because now it's a health hazard for us. We told them it's a health hazard. We don't want to put our people in a building that is not suitable for them. So,
Commissioner City is willing to shut down the airport, but what if the security people decide we're not working anymore?
and this is what, correct. So this is what we're trying to force their hands, and told them it's a health issue. So we went to the Ministry of Basic Care now, and they're taking it from a safety angle, and they said, hopefully we can get some movement going from that direction. But not only security, custom, everybody's complaining about the building. So, like I said, the ministry is not willing to take up their responsibility. They're putting it on the government to maintain this responsibility. The security unit manager is leaving, correct? And a vacancy is already put out in place to look for next security unit manager. But in the meantime, before he left, we've been discussing a while about how we can, it was something about privatization of the airport in the harbor. Okay, we know the airport is not viable at this moment. The harbor have more potential for privatization. The biggest cause that we have is the security. So we was looking at if we can have like a dual model when it comes to that. There's advice on that right now when we are looking at that to see if that can be a better way forward than what we have now in terms of the personnel and the responsibilities, because that company would then bear all the responsibility to make sure that we are up to date with the standards for the international airport. So the trainings and all those things that we needed, because that comes with additional cost for OLA as well, not to just pay them, but to keep them up to date. And we are looking to see how we can work towards a more efficient, I would say, unit security for government in that aspect. But vacancies has already been out. The lag in income of the permits and what's the cause of the reduction. Our main source of income for permits is building and licenses. And we have seen, because a lot of businesses has been pulling in their business licenses. There's no doubt, because it's a rough economy. The statistics is there from CBS. And besides that, we know of the tax structure. It is really burdening some of the companies as well. So we see that movement. But that is our main source of income. The reduction may be based on, for sure, the economy is not that active, so persons are no longer opening business and all that fast, and let me say it like that. And then when it comes to the building permits, persons maybe not billing as much, but building permits are paid ahead of time, so we have that money in. Update on the ODNL. Yes, you so rightly said, I informed that this came out of a report from ELT for the 3 islands when it came to enforcement, and they scored badly. And based on this report, they factored in the support of ODNL. It mainly focused on one of the islands that really did poorly, but of course, since we're bundled together, all 3 of us, got the same treatment. In that signage, they did an update to see where all the islands were, and they were commending to Statius for taking leaps and bounds in terms of, our improvements when it comes to the different areas that we needed support in. Statia was ahead of the other 2 islands, so I would like to congratulate the unit manager of VTH and all the persons there working for putting in all the effort that allow us to make these strides. What was signed, the agreement is that ODNL will be supporting OLA. They also will be supporting the other 2 islands. The contracts are very similar, but it kind of tweaked towards station needs and what we wouldn't be needing. And the assistance that we will be requesting is based on the request of station. So it's very, very clear that this agreement is a supportive role. We ensure that we had some discussions with the sister islands, that this agreement will not be binding. It was very clear, we had those discussions, so it's a supportive role of ODNL. Our department is young, as you said, and ripe, still growing, so we need a lot of support in certain areas, and this offers that support. There's a very good relationship between ODNL and Statia, where they have a very good working relationship, and again, you can see in the results. So Statia is in the lead when it comes to that. So again, I would like to commend the unit manager for that. Now, I asked the question, what happens? Because it's still lingering in the air, What does this mean when it comes to this whole unit enforcement? Because their main angle is also enforcement and giving out of business licenses. They feel that the politique is being influential in this, and that's why they were threatening, if I can say, to take it out from the governments, because they said the gemeentes in Holland, they don't handle this part. It's handled by the omgevingsdienst. So they said that they're going to evaluate after 2 years, and after 2 years, they're going to see, I guess, where each island is, and then from there on, then the discussion will continue, what would be the next steps, if the islands can keep it or what the islands want to do. But it was very clear that the islands did not agree with the stance of the ministry at that point in time. So I think this is a good start. The law will be coming to the Island Council early next year for ratification. In the meantime, we've been having a lot of issues when it comes to, and it's financial really, when we have to enforce. For instance, to move garages, we have questions, and that question was asked to them, how can you give us support? Because if we have to move a garage who has been there for 20, 30, 40 years to our next area, who pays for the infrastructure, the movement, and all those different things? And those are questions that they still have to help us answer. Because again, you can't ask us to enforce, and then we're getting evaluated on a law, and then it's not executable for obvious reasons, and then after you're going to have this report that, Statia, whoever, Bonnier, Seba is not complying. So we are very clear on these areas, and they are documented, and asking what are the consequences or how can we go about, executing certain things. The revenue that is being generated from the rent, we'll have to get that. You get any information from her already? The revenues from the rent? We didn't get it yet. No, we didn't receive the information as yet. The revenues that will be generated from the rent for the buildings here that is being rented out by the mall. So hopefully we can send that in writing once the department sends it. I think that answered. Oh, we got the answer for the cargo. 3 days for cargo and 8 days for containers, and that's the free. So 3 days for cargo and 8 days for the containers. I would like to also commend the Department of Finance for their hard work. I know it's a lot of work. And again, all departments, because in order for us to have this positive report, it took everybody to be a part of this. So we want to just thank everybody for all their hard work and hoping that we can continue this going forward. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I have one additional question. You talk about basically that the ministry, I think, is basically threatening the island that if we can't handle the VTH, etc., that they will take it away from the island. I mean, does the VTH locally fall under a national law that gives the minister authority to intervene in the local department operation, that they can take it away from us if they want to?
At the moment, no. And that's why they will have to do a law change in order to do that. So they were saying that if it comes to that, they will go to the chamber and work on a law change where the islands then fall within the same laws like the gemeentes in Holland. And then, again, then is no choice. It's the law that they have to abide by. So, but based on the discussions that it seems like they're listening to the islands, it seems, and that's why they're saying, okay, let's continue to support and let's see how it goes. When it comes to environmental permits, especially the big ones dealing with GTI, that's a task of the REIK. So all money goes there. We don't receive those monies. We just receive a small little pittance when it comes to, well, ain't pittance because it's still money. But the permits, the licenses, but when it comes to like the bigger job that they have to take on by law, then they are the one who collects the money. So based on evaluation, we're hoping that it continues because, like I said, Stacia already have great improvement, and they look at it on an island by island basis and not, collectively as the 3 islands, and see how we go from there.
Councilman Simmons, you have a question?
Yeah, I heard you mention about the environmental, I call it tax. Where is that reported? Those are things that every time it comes to money, and it's seemingly like if you have a way of collecting your funds, and I heard Commissioner Merkman refer to us as a municipality. I would advise not doing that because we're not. It's they pick and choose when to use those strings. And whenever I hear those things, I often come to we are a public body, although I don't like the name, but we are not a municipality because of these same things. And imagine you collecting funds and you're not even really reporting what you're collecting. And then you have the audacity to say you have good governance.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Simmons. Commissioner Merkman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to provide a elucidation on what I said earlier pertaining to the airport with the air filter system. I was informed that the air filter system has been installed since last week. Last week it was installed. The air filter system at the airport has been installed. So let's see what happens now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. right, so that concludes the first round of deliberation on this agenda point. Is there a need for a second round of Council Lady Spanner, Carty?
Chairman Smith, I don't need a second round. I just would like to say that two of my questions were not answered.
Go ahead, state which two.
There was a question on from page 7 regarding a negative free liquidity. I was asking if that influences our day-to-day position, and also I asked with the lower revenues than expected, if, for instance, our directorates, so if any plans have been adjusted to suit the lower outcome of what we expected.
Thank you. Thank you for the questions, because it's quite possible we do miss questions at times. Sorry about that. But pertaining to the lower revenues, whenever we notice that, that's why you have like budget amendments. When we notice that, we make an adjustment lower. For example, you see in the harbor, the revenues of the harbor has been dropping all the time. And we have been making duly adjustments as we go along. And now the CFT is actually saying, listen, every time you have noticed that it's becoming structural, this drop in the revenues, what are you doing about it? And I think that was one of your questions too. You was asking, is there a study being done as to why the harbor revenues are constantly dropping? You did ask a question about that. So we did certain things in the harbor, but we are noticing that, as the unit manager mentioned, that it's because of the traffic in the harbor, and we cannot lose focus of the fact that our economy is in a downward spiral. Specifically, you look at what is happening with New Star. My colleague works in that sector, and I've heard her saying on more than one occasion the bunkering has decreased significantly, and the bunkering, that also leads to less ships, and less ships mean that the income of the harbor also becomes less. Liquidity. And less money, less liquidity. So it's just the reality. And once you have risk, I think in my first presentation I referred to, when you have risk and you allot money to that, you can't touch your money, so you got money tie up. So the cash flow is also less, the liquidity is less. Okay.
Council Lady Spanner.
Thank you, Commissioner. I think you went back to your school days. I felt taught. But but I think you missed my question. I was more concerned about not just with what is going on, because that is obvious and the reasons why. How does it affect our day-to-day operations within government? Have directors, for instance, had to change their year plan based on less money? That is what I want to know.
Anytime there's an adjustment, it's across the board. So the directors, everybody has to look. One of the things that we have done is say, listen, look at your budget again. Cut back there. We need to, because within the rules and regulations of the system that we work within, we can't have a negative balance. So we need to, that drives us to to keep costs as low as possible. If the councilman just referred to that, I use the word municipality. In the municipality, they can have a negative balance, but we cannot. You know, so we try to keep our balance positive as much as possible. But you are correct, Council Lady.
Mr. Chairman, if I may add on, we had to move some investments to next year, which is 2026, because of the same issue. But in the meantime, we're also looking at other ways that we can increase the revenue. So that's why when the discussion about medical school came in and other investment come in, we try to see how we can try to shift the loss and find ways to increase the revenues. So even I believe some departments had to remove vehicles, especially when it comes to the waste management, we move that investment of the building for, I think is for the workers. Yeah. We move that investment again, I think, to 27 in order for us to be able to balance the budget. You know about the incinerator, we had to buy that, and that definitely messed up the investment list. So a lot of persons had to go back to the list, look at what is priority, which everything is priority, but what is the most, we have the biggest priority, and then see how we can push back some of these investments, or even personnel. Even personnel. We had to say, okay, hopefully, well, maybe by this time you will not be able to fill that vacancy, so we had to push back some of the vacancies that are not that urgent, so we can actually manage and balance the budget. So we are losing, like you said, have to really look at the different programs and change it up.
Okay, so then that concludes deliberation in the first round. I understand no one else needs a second round. So, all right, so we thank all the presenters, unit manager, finance, and also director, personnel affairs, for their presentations, and the commissioners for their answers. So I imagine this, so I have to ask the council, the committee, if they are informed sufficiently regarding this agenda point, and it can be moved to the Island Council. Okay, so everyone is in favor of moving this forward wherever it has to go. To the Island Council. Yes, thank you. All right, since this topic has been debated sufficiently, we will close this agenda point and move to agenda point number 5. But this one we ain't going to, no. Okay, agenda point number 5 is the third budget amendment 2025. For this agenda point, we will discuss the third budget amendment, a financial document that includes several expenditures requested by the Executive Council. Under the FinBES, the government is not permitted to spend funds that have not been included in the approved budget. Such expenditure must first be approved by the Island Council via an amendment. The amendment is then presented to the CFT, who will provide an advice. Hereafter, the final approval will be given by the Minister. To gain further insight into this agenda point regarding this third budget amendment, I now give the word to Commissioner of Finance, Mr. Ruben Merkman, on this third budget amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have before us the third budget amendment. And looking at it again, the CFT is saying, listen, the direction you're going is a good direction, and they're motivating us to keep it that way with being transparent in this process. There's a positive of 1.5 million within the budget amendment. The positive balance is 1.5 million, and this TFT is saying the changes are clearly and meticulously highlighted, which they appreciate. The personnel costs increase with 600,000, and the harbor, the revenues of the harbor decrease again, just mention it, by 400,000. And again, they are recommending that an analysis of the harbor revenues be conducted. Basically, within that, those are the two major things that are there. They are recommending some small technical changes, semantics, to make sure that when we do in the year account, that all of those, that it's in line with those changes are in line with the year account. We know that 1 million was taken out of the budget for 25 and moved to 26 for investments. The expenditures and revenues, the total has increased, and that total has come because of the free allowance of 1.3 million that was received. So basically that's the changes that you have within the budget. Nothing really big. Those are it's probably just, this is one of the smallest amount of changes that we have within the financial world since we're making budget amendments. And I was recommended by the unit manager, listen, it would be best in the future moving forward not to have any budget amendments after October. Because now we are having to constantly communicate with the CFT saying, listen, we need to do this, and what's your position on that? I have a communication from the CFT where they're saying to me, if they get, they now see that if they get the communication let's say by tomorrow morning, they would be able to react before CARES. So that's good. So it also takes a lot of strain away from the Island Council in making a decision, and that you don't know what's going to happen. So the CFT has duly said, listen, we can make a decision before CARES, which is like a week away. That's for the third budget amendment. So those are some of the highlights really pertaining to this budget amendment that we are presenting today, and we would like your cooperation in moving it, since it's really a semantic budget amendment, as quickly as possible so we can get this to the CFT and get a response by Christmas. Thank you. Sorry, I would like to, pertaining to the numbers, I would like to ask your indulgence in allowing the unit manager to present us have a small presentation on this.
Okay, before the unit manager come, Council Lady Spanakati had a question.
Yes, Chairman, I had a question regarding this. You two know of the advice that we have received, so I'm wondering, the advice of the CFT does not supersede the advice of the signing off by the State Secretary on the budget. So if we we would still be in discrepancy if we spent money before it was approved, which will come in January. So I'm wondering if the commissioner can include this part in his advice, because it's nice if CFT can sign off, but it still doesn't make it okay.
Yes, so there is the issue that even if we approve the budget amendment now, the spending, we have to await the decision of the minister, and then the expending will take place in 26, and we cannot spend it before the end of the year, before the approval. So what is the advice from the finance department on that? Department or commissioner, whichever one.
The unit manager would take that up before he makes his presentation. He will give an answer on that. But based on the information that I just have, oh boy.
You're saying. You're saying.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to suggest, in the sense of, in the essence of time as well, not for us not to waste anymore, if we can just get an answer on the question, because then the presentation won't be necessary at this point in time.
Okay, so there is, it doesn't make sense to work on the budget amendment now in order to make a decision, because we're not going to be able to spend the funds anyway in 2025. So basically the suggestion is to skip this matter, let's answer the question on the, and then we can move the other action to a later date.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This whole process, that's why I recommend to the Commissioner that next year we shouldn't have any budget amendments after October, because the time period is so short. Because what really happens is that CFT has 2 weeks and the minister has 2 weeks. So you need a month to get the approval. So what we did now is that we got CFT to agree with us that they're going to do it quicker. And the BZK is also deliberating with the minister if he could do it quicker. And it seems that probably they could get it done by Christmas. And if they get it done by Christmas, then let's say the civil service will have enough time to spend the money in the 5 days. You understand? Because until the minister signs off, you can't spend the money. So that's why the process is being, let's say, speeded up. And we're hoping that the minister will be able to sign off before the, let's say, around the 25th or maybe the 26th or something like that, which will leave a few days that the civil service could spend the money before year end.
Yeah, but as you say, you're hoping, so there's no guarantee.
But in this budget amendment, the most it has is like shifting things to correct the budget, so that when we make in the financial statement, that it will be, you know, where it's supposed to be. So this budget amendment doesn't have much things to spend in. So the spending that has to take place is taking place, but this budget amendment doesn't have many things, or almost nothing in it that has to get the approval of the minister. So it only
There's
have
also
maybe
the,
one or two things, but it doesn't have, let's say, something that will hinder the organization from going forward.
There's also the issue of personal liability of council members if we spend funds that are not approved by
No, but we send a clear message to the civil service, to all department heads and directors, that until the minister signs off, it cannot be spent. That happened with the second budget amendment too, because of the mishap that we had, and it was not signed off the time that we expected it to be signed off, and we had to wait until it was signed off by the minister for the budget holders to be able to spend the money. So that took place. Now we got that approval, and thereafter the civil service was able to spend the money. Before that, you can't spend it, because you'll be, the commissioner could be held liable, the island council could be held liable, all of that.
Okay.
So that is the process that we are in right now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So can we, as a question for the committee members, can we just send it to the island council and then there decide not to approve or not to approve to get it out of the central committee, or want to keep it in the central committee? Council Lady Spanner.
Chairman, before making a decision, I would like to get clarity on one thing. If we proceed with voting on the budget amendment, and we pass it, and Mr. Tuitt's hope that he has those 5 days to execute, if that doesn't happen, what does that mean?
But the other question, the other side of that is, if we don't approve it at all, then what happens to...
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first one is if you don't approve it, what happens, right? So if you don't approve it, it will cause some difficulties with when we're making the financial report for the year. Because remember, the financial report, the jaarrekening, includes the budget. So if the budget isn't correct, then if it isn't corrected, then it will have negative effects on your financial statement, and maybe it could even trickle on to mess up the opinion that the auditor is going to give. So that's one side of the story. And then the next side is if the minister does not approve it, let's say around the 25th of December, yeah, the only thing it will mean is that he could approve it, let's say, the first week in January. Then the only thing that will happen is that if there was any expenditure that one of the departments wanted to make, they can't make it anymore. But the budget, my advice is to approve the budget, because if you don't approve it, the budget amendments, if you don't approve it, it could have a negative effect on the financial statements.
All right, so Mr. Tuitt is saying his advice is to approve the budget. And if we are held personally liable, I guess they'll lock all of us up in Bonaire. Okay, so like my previous question, then we just send it on to the Island Council. Yeah, and then there we'll decide, the council will decide what they will do with it. Okay? Is everyone in agreement with that? Council members? Mr. Simmons? Okay. All right, so there's no need for deliberation on this agenda point at this point, so we'll pass it on to the Island Council, and there a decision will be made on further action. Commissioner Merkman?
In light of that too, if one of the things that the finance department has to be very careful about, if they rechtmatigheid van de bestedingen, so if they go and they use money that is not properly in there to be used, it comes back to beat him, because then you use him unarithmetic but stating in. So it also has a big impact for us too if we do something like that. So we are very careful that we don't do that. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay. Okay. Well, I think in the past there used to be a little more flexibility, that you could have approved. You can spend in advance and then fix it later in a budget amendment. That's another one. Well, not anymore for us, but I hear the CFT give that privilege to the countries. St. Martin is allowed to spend certain monies and then come back, fix it in the next budget amendment. Yeah, but anyway, we are not countries according to Mr. Simmons. All right, so after deliberations, we will... Yeah, so we thank the Finance Commissioner and the Unit Manager for their presentation on this. So this agenda point will move forward to the Island Council. Agenda point number 6, announcements from the Executive Council. No? Okay, now announcements, and we proceed to agenda point number 7, the closing the meeting of the Central Committee for today, December 18, is now come to an end. So we thank all those who participated in today's meeting, our last meeting for the year, and also to the technical team for their assistance. Thank you to the public also for joining us. And please be informed that right after this meeting, we will proceed to our Island Council meeting. Yes, it's now 1:29. So should we resume at 2 for the Island Council meeting? So thank you for joining us, and we'll be back in a half hour with the Island Council meeting. Thank you.